Welcome everybody to this presentation on the processed foods. It is said that 70% of cancers like stomach cancer, kidney cancer, breast cancer, colorectal and endometrial cancers are prevented, provided we eat right, maintain healthy weight and do physical exercise. When we are going to discuss mainly eating right. In the last two lectures, we have discussed about foods, that we need to eat food regularly. Why? Because we have to maintain a healthy body. And we also need foods for its growth. And the foods that we eat must contain all the essential nutrients which are needed to maintain the healthy body. And these are carbohydrates, proteins, fat oils, vitamins, minerals, and water. And these have been discussed in last two lectures. No, we don't eat all these nutrients as such. We eat these as part of food, which we either cook or eat in the raw form. So even if we cook food, we have to buy from the sources. Now, this is where I think we are going to discuss about problem comes. That most of the food that we buy or eat is a processed food. What is a processed food? A food that has been altered from its raw state is the processed food. The alteration can be done by cooking, drying or grinding, canning, pasteurization, heating, irradiating, adding nutrients for different purpose to enhance its texture, taste, to preserve it, to give color to the food or emulsifiers. The concern is that most of the foods we have to process, like even say wheat. We don't eat wheat raw. We have to grind into wheat flour. And when we grind it, it becomes a processing. So why most foods are processed? They are processed in order to increase their digestibility, in order to improve their nutritive and health value, to attract the consumers and develop the food market, to preserve the foods to extend their shelf life, to maintain or enhance the quality, to maintain sensory properties, to make it more convenient, and also to destroy toxins or microbes present in some of the foods. There are three types of processing that is done. Completely unprocessed foods in natural form without any additives, and these are like banana from a tree, egg from a chicken. But egg from a chicken, no. I mean, I'll discuss this in more in detail later. Banana from a tree, you remove this and eat it. One could say apples we eat, but no, we are going to discuss because there are coatings applied on the apples sometimes to enhance its shelf life and to avoid its decay. Then there are moderately processed foods, foods that have been changed. For example, whole grains to wheat, whole grains to to make cereals, pasta, crackers, sweet potatoes which have been peeled, seasoned, and shaped into fries, like even potatoes or sweet potatoes. And then there is heavily processed food. This is what we call the junk, in which many ingredients or additives have been added. This could be pre-cooked or otherwise prepared food. This could be cookies, snacks, cakes, energy bars, candies, sugary cereals. As a general rule, minimally processed foods are healthier for us to take. In processed foods, the food additives are again of three types: intentional, incidental, and indirect. The intentional are the one which have been added with a purpose, and some of the purposes I said earlier, like for restoration, for enrichment, for fortification. We discussed in the last lecture like fortification with vitamins, for preservation and safety of the product, for enhanced appearance, flavor, or texture of the product. Incidental are the ones which come in contact with food during growth. For example, antibiotics or pesticides. And these antibiotics are a major concern. Is the increasing resistance to antibiotics due to too much consumption of antibiotics in the foods that we are consuming? Is that the reason? And then the indirect, something present in the food which gets transferred, something present in the food package which gets transferred to the food. For example, pickles. With pickles, if you store pickles in plastic jars have plasticizers present in them. And these plasticizers are nothing but fat soluble. And the pickles are made in oils. And therefore, some of these plasticizers get transferred to pickles. Therefore, it is advised that we should not be storing foods in plastic jar, especially the food which contains fats or oils, because there could be indirect transfer of some of these additives into the food, and it's not good for health. Now let's look at what are different classes of intentional food additives. You'll be surprised to know even the classes of different food additives. We are not going to talk about all in detail. Like acids. The food acids are added to make the flavors sharper. And also many of them act as preservatives, like citric acid, acetic acid, tartric acid. The acidity regulators. These are used to change or otherwise control the acidity and alkalinity of the foods. Then there are anti-caking agents. These are added to powders like a milk powder or salt that we buy. And the idea is to prevent them from caking so that they don't become a lump and bad. Then the anti-foaming agents. They reduce or prevent foaming in foods. And these are added in oils, the oils that we buy for cooking purposes. Most of them have anti-foaming agents present in them. Antimicrobial agents like salt, sugar, nitrates, nitrites, they're added. The antioxidants, such as vitamin C, which act as a preservative also by inhibiting the effect of oxygen of food. The other antioxidants like BHA, BHP, vitamin E, etc. Then there are bleaching agents to give better color, texture, like peroxides. Some of these are used to give good texture to the flour, which is used for making breads. Bulking agents, such as starch, are additives that increase the bulk of the food without affecting its nutritional value, but they are adding extra starch. Then food coloring, they are added to replace the colors lost during either preparation or to make it more attractive. In US, even the meats that are sold have colors used in them. Emulsifiers allow water and oils to remain mixed together in an emulsion, as in mayonnaise, ice cream, homogenized milk. So they add emulsifiers. Flavors are additives that give food a particular taste or smell. I think we all know, like vanilla ice cream, they add vanilla, which could be natural or which could be synthetic. So it's a flavor, and there's a number of such flavoring agents. Then there are flavor enhancers, and among them, most discussed and talked about is MSG, monosodium glutamate or Ajinomoto. It's called a flavor enhancer. Then there are flow treatment agents, which are added to flour to improve its color and used for baking. These treatment agents are useful in baking. Then glazing agents are added to give a shiny appearance or protective coating to foods. And some of these glazing agents are also applied to the fruits and some of the vegetables that we buy. Humectants prevent foods from drying out. Tracer gas allow for package integrity testing to prevent foods from being exposed to atmosphere. Preservatives, obviously, to prevent spoilage of food due to fungi or bacteria or other microorganisms. Stabilizers, thickeners, and gelling agents like agar, pectin, we talked of in the first lecture, using jams and so on. These give foods a firmer texture. Even you see some of the ice creams, they sold as ice cream free from fat. They add substances like pectin to make the fat-free ice cream have a firmer texture. While they are not emulsifiers, they help to stabilize emulsions. Sweeteners are added to foods for flavoring. Sweeteners other than sugar are added to keep the food energy low. Sometimes they don't want to increase the food energy calories, so they add other sweeteners. The three types of sweeteners: natural, natural-like, and artificial. Then the thickeners are substances which, when added to mixtures, increase the viscosity without substantially modifying their properties. So there's so many of these additives, and they're added to different kinds of foods depending on their requirement. What are the health implications of processed foods? Obviously, excess salt, because salt may be added, as a preservative. Sodium comes from preservatives, fat and sugar, gluten sensitivity, food coloring sensitivity, reactions to additives, pesticides, herbicides, and antibiotics, and then dependence of these. These are some of the reasons for some of the causes. Some examples of processed foods. Trans fats. We discussed in the first lecture on trans fats that in India the level is 10%, unlike the WHO level at 1%, and many foods contain trans fats. And this one of the sources of trans fat is also repeated heating of oil. So I think we may be liking samosa, and when we buy samosas or anything, from shops which have been heating oil for a very, very long time, they don't throw that out. They keep on adding more and more. So a food cooked in oil will have much less, in a fresh oil, much less trans fat than the one which is cooked in vanaspati or a oil which has been repeatedly heated. Just to show example, even mustard oil that's available in the market, you can see here. I have not shown the company. It says trans fatty acid. Even mustard oil has 1%, 1 gram. Sorry, 1 gram. Potato chips, it says trans fat, 0.1 gram. Even tomato ketchup, even I was surprised, has trans fat, though it says a trace. So see, many foods that we are even unaware of may be containing trans fats. Let's come to one of the most talked about additives, sodium glutamate, which is added as a preservative as well as a flavor enhancer. We all know that Maggi was banned for some time. It was banned only because of sodium monoglutamate, SMG. But later the ban was lifted and now it's available. It is said that too much of sodium glutamate is not good. MSG, that is Ajinomoto, is used to enhance the flavor. MSG makes the meat taste meatier. This means less meat has to be used to make a burger and the product costs less. So this is a means of, business. But is it necessary? Any disadvantages? Yes. Reported side effects include headache, flushing, sweating, nausea, muscle weakness, etc. This could be because glutamate is an important chemical messenger in the brain. Now, on one hand, we have glutamate, and then I'll compare also with artificial sweeteners. Among them, one of the very common artificial sweetener is aspartame, which is nothing but a dipeptide consisting of aspartic acid and phenylalanine, and it's sold with various brand names like NutraSweet, Equal, Spoonful, Equal Measure, and so on. You can see it was discovered by accident in 1965 when James Schlatter, a chemist of GD Searle Company, was testing an anti-ulcer drug. How aspartate, which is part of aspartame and glutamate, cause damage. Both too much of aspartate and glutamate are not good. So aspartate and glutamate act as neurotransmitters in the brain by facilitating the transmission of information from neuron to neuron. Too much of aspartate or glutamate in the brain kills certain neurons by allowing the influx of too much calcium into the cells. This influx triggers excessive amounts of free radicals, which kill the cells. The neural cell damage that can be caused by excessive aspartate or glutamate is why they are referred to as excitotoxins, because they excite or stimulate the neural cells to death. And MSG is not simply added in this Maggi. In so many foods, most of the Chinese food, this is added. It's even added in cookies, you know, biscuits. So many foods it's added. Oils that we buy, they add antioxidants, as I had mentioned in my first lecture, that antioxidants are added to prevent decay of oil because oils contain unsaturation and they are affected by oxygen. Then we just mentioned anti-foaming agents. Some of the anti-foaming agents are nothing but polymers of silicon, siloxanes, which are added. Then stabilizers, and to fortify the oil, they also add vitamins. So some of the vitamins that may be coming from here. And what are the antioxidants? See, the additives in the different products are shown by their numbers. And the names of these can be easily accessed. The lists are available. One has to just Google it as a list of additives. So they are available by numbers, E numbers. So some countries use the E number, some don't use the word E number. They simply use the number directly. And each and every chemical is listed there. Then coming to salts, free flow and anti-caking salts, and anti-caking agents in salt. The salt should not form a cake, and therefore they add anti-caking agents. Addition of even the best of dryer powders in use today, such as magnesium carbonate, calcium carbonate, starch, calcium phosphate, often as much as 2%, fails to prevent considerable retardation of flow of salt on damp days and to prevent some caking. So they add anti-caking agents. These are new ones like magnesium stearate or aluminum stearate. And to make the salt free flow, they add other chemicals. So we think that we may be using only salt that we have bought, but that salt also contains other additives. There's another, I think, salt which has become available now called low sodium salt. And if you look at the low sodium salt, the part of the sodium has been replaced by potassium. So those consuming salt must be careful before using low sodium salt, because persons suffering from hyperkalemia, this can be more problem because it provides potassium also besides the sodium, which should be coming. One of the very important products which is often recommended everybody should be taking is the honey. And as in a survey of different honey from different companies, it was found that honey may contain from 1 to 5 different antibiotics present in them. As you can see from here, different antibiotics like oxytetracycline, chloramphenicol, ampicillin, ciprofloxacin, and so on. What is the source of the antibiotic? Well, the source of antibiotic is because antibiotics are sprayed on the calories to prevent them having any diseases, and then this gets transferred into the product. And rarely any company, I mean, it was listed one company, they didn't find any, but and nowadays there's a new write-up about honey that they are adding high fructose corn syrup to this, and this does not again solidify easily. Increasing antimicrobial resistance. We just saw that antibiotics may be transferred to us via honey. The other sources are milk, chicken, meat, etc. Because the antibiotics are fed to animals with the feed, to the chicken with the feed, and sometimes also used for meat. And these get transferred, carried on to us. And also, some individuals may have lactose intolerance, which results in gastric distress. Whole milk and many cheeses are high in saturated fats. So moderate to heavy consumption can increase risk of weight gain and higher blood fats. Besides the antibiotics. Now, chicken eggs may be making you resistant to antibiotics because in a study done in India by US-based Center for the Disease Dynamics, Economics and Policy, the study, the largest of its kind in India, published in Environmental Health Perspectives, found high levels of antibiotic-resistant pathogens in chickens raised for meat and eggs on farms in Punjab. The CDDP-EP study assumes significance as there have been an increasing demand and consumption for milk for animal products, which has led to the rise in use of antibiotics as growth promoters. So, previous studies had projected that globally antibiotic consumption in food animal production will rise by 67% by 2030, with India tripling its consumption. But indiscriminate prescription and use of antibiotics and other medicines has also led to concerns about drug resistance in pathogens that cause infectious diseases like tuberculosis, malaria, UTI, and even HIV. Again, some of the antibiotics which have been studied in chicken found in different levels. Though it was published by All India Poultry Development Services, they said amounts are very, very small and actual permitted amount is this. Well, I think this is just a justification. But yes, if one is consuming too much of these foods, there'll be too much intake of unwanted chemicals in the body. Additives in flour. Even flours additives are added for whitening purposes, for anti-caking purposes, and for stabilizers. And earlier, the flour whiteners which are used were the peroxide. Peroxides are generally used. Recently, sodium bromate application as a whitening agent has been stopped only recently. We don't know that how far it's been used. And has really everybody stopped using bromates, because now bromates have been categorized as possibly carcinogenic to humans by international agency, and that's why it has been banned only recently here. Again, in India, we really did not show whether people have really stopped its use. So there's so many chemicals that we are consuming, maybe adding to the problems that are responsible for increasing number of diseases. Maida, we all know, is chemically bleached to make it super white and make it very smooth. Just taken from its website from Nature's Harvest. See, when we say whole wheat bread, if you look at the ingredients, you'll find that in the bracket, whole wheat flour, it says approximately only 50%. That means 50% other stuff is there. So whole wheat is only 50%. And these are other additives in the bread. How can this be a substitute for simple chapati? Though wheat that we were using has some additives, we are only using water to make chapati. We don't any of these. And then of course, say atta bread. And when you have atta bread, it uses all kinds of additives. Similarly, brown bread. So I just wanted to emphasize that we feel happy that yes, we're using whole wheat bread, but we should make it a habit to look at the ingredients. Fruits and vegetable coatings. A number of fruits and vegetables are coated with different edible coatings so as to enhance their shelf life, to prevent loss of volatile flavors and aromas, to prevent loss of moisture or intake of oxygen, and for enhancement of texture. I mean, sometimes some of the apples that we buy, if you scratch with a nail or a knife, you'll see very fine powder coming out. And by simple washing, it does not easily go out. So though, I mean, these are edible coatings, but my presumption is that too much intake of such products, which are unwanted by the body, they do not have as such any direct role. Many of these may not have direct role, may not be good for us. Though it is reported that the edible coatings consist of proteins, polysaccharides, gums, lipids, and resin. Again, we may not be realizing that we are thinking we are eating apple. Even if we are eating with a coating, we are not realizing that we are taking sugars or lipids or resins along with them. Preservatives. I mean, wonder. And what are the among very common preservatives? Some of these benzoate, and one of the benzoate that is commonly used is sodium benzoate, which is used in jams, jellies, etc. So, because it is sodium salt, those suffering from blood pressure or are having heart problem are generally advised not to have these items. So various other preservatives like sorbates, propionates, acetic acid, nitrites, sulfites, and these sulfites again may be sodium salts. It could be sodium sulfite, it could be sodium bisulfite, it could be sodium metabisulfite, it could be potassium bisulfite. And again, somebody who is suffering from hyperkalemia, if they take products in which potassium bisulfite or potassium metabisulfite has been used as a preservative, it will be detrimental to the health. And lastly, the sulfites. Sulfites are preservatives that are commonly found in wine, dried fruit, some condiments, and other prepackaged foods. An individual who has a sulfite intolerance may experience headaches, migraines, and even asthma-like symptoms after consuming these products. So we saw some examples of the foods which have been fortified. And as we started in the beginning, one of the causes is the food for some of the diseases or even cancers It is because we are intaking so many chemicals which are not desired. Many times we hear that the vegetables that we are buying are coated, color coated, so as to make them look better. Green or sometimes we see and hear that injections of some proteins or say oxytocin are given to blocky or other vegetables so that they can grow much bigger in size. Some of these are not required, and probably this is what is one of the reason for the major cause. And therefore, we should avoid the proce- processed foods as far as possible. All processed food that we use very often contain a number of additives. Just to mention here, if you buy, chinks or other uh, soups, dry powder, they say very easy to make. You look at the uh, anti-caking agent added in them, it is nothing but silicon dioxide, silica. So silica is what is we call sand. This is being added as a anti-caking agent in some of these. So if you take too much of these, ready-made foods, so that they're easier, it may not be good for our health. And therefore, we should eat a balanced diet. We should reduce white foods. We should increase color foods, and we should have more veggies, whole grains, and fruits, which are the main source of antioxidants, flavonoids, and other nutrients which work better, all these when they come from food. And we should avoid packaged food as far as possible. Fasting does not mean eating fast. Thank you. If you have any questions, you can contact me on 98-106-511-42, or you can write to me at gmkhurana1 @yahoo.co.in. Thank you.